Hello. So yes. Hello? That was nice. Hello. So yes, I'm Justine, and my job is either killing people off or letting them fall in love for a living. I develop stories for broadcast, for radio drama, for TV and theatre. And what this does, I think, is it satisfies my endless curiosity for how humans human, including myself. So I thought I would combine my working life and my personal life for this talk about comparing the love stories that we all are subjected to all the time and that we adore in books and films and so on to my own story. And I've been on quite a journey with this talk, actually, because who knew that comparing those stories that we hear about with our own stories would be such a journey and such a ride, so bear with. So when you're a story queen like me, the thing is, like in lots of things in life, you just learn the rules, and you learn the rules to a perfect love story. Yes! And thank God for rules, hey, because without rules, life would be tough without knowing all the rules for a happily ever after, so that our lives, your lives, are not a tragedy, right? The answer, if you do a job like mine is called structure. And I know that we humans, and me in particular, get a bit lost without structure, very lost, in fact, without a plan and a guide. So can structure teach us how to live and love well? There we go. Keep changing on here. Can story structure teach us how to have a happy ending? But not that kind of a happy ending. I mean, that as well. We see I'm clicking. I need to get the thing right. So this, I'm not going to take you through all of this, but this is an example of the different types of story structure that exist in all of the ways that you have experienced stories. But honestly, when you look at them, they kind of all boil down to one thing, and every single one of us in the room already knows what that is, which is the beginning, the middle, and the end. Beginning, the middle, and the end. And to spoil every Pixar movie that you have ever watched, ever, they all follow this structure. They start off with an everyday. There's a character who does something every day in a world until one day where something happens. And because of that, and because of that, and because of that, life gets really exciting and you reach a climax. And then it changes and it becomes harder and harder until the lowest point. And then there's the end. So I thought, okay, how do I explain this concept easily and quickly? I will pick an example from the canons of English literature. So I thought about Shakespeare, I thought about Dickens, and then I decided on Helen Fielding's Bridget Jones. Because actually, for those of you that have watched it, and I have many times, it is in the end Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice. So, Bridget Jones. When we go back to that story structure diagram, let's look at the setup for Bridget Jones. Cue slide. And cue video on the slide.
And so I made a major decision. I had to make sure that next year I wouldn't end up shit-faced and listening to sad FM, easy listening for the over 30s. I decided to take control of my life and start a diary to tell the truth about Bridget Jones. The whole truth. Resolution number 1. Ooh. Obviously we'll lose £20. Number 2. Always put last night's panties in the laundry basket. Equally important, we'll find nice, sensible boyfriend to go out with and not continue to form romantic attachments to any of the following: alcoholics, workaholics, commitment phobics, peeping toms, megalomaniacs, emotional fuckwits, or perverts. And especially will not fantasize about a particular person who embodies all these things.
Can I have a yes if anybody here has seen the film or read the book of Bridget Jones? Okay. So the thing is, Bridget gives herself New Year's resolutions, and they are rules designed to make her happy. If she can just stick to society's rules for being a good girl, being a thin girl, she will be loved by a man and she will live happily ever after. And the horrible thing about me doing this talk, and she was and has been a heroine of mine, and the embarrassing thing is to admit that I learned and tried to play by the same rules for the longest time. And from Bridget's case, she met the annoying and awkward Mark Darcy. She then got asked out on a date by the charming, handsome rogue called Daniel, who was her boss. And because of that, she got to go on a series dates. And because of that, she edged closer and closer to the point of love, where she would go on an all-important mini break. And Daniel agrees to meet her family, where Bridget will get to show everyone that she has succeeded in love, and she will get that external validation. Next slide. Sorry, I missed a slide. You'll have to go past two. And the next one, please. So, the thing is, if you look at that model, once you get up to the climax where you think you've got what you want, like Bridget, what you want is not always what you need. And in terms of story times, it's only the midpoint of the story. And for characters who get, and this is not true of everything, but mainly for characters who get only what they want, they end in tragedy. You just have to look at Macbeth. So the journey for our characters is a hero who needs not only to find what they want, but discover what they actually need, and that makes all the difference. So for Bridget, she never got her external validation from her family. Daniel didn't meet them and got engaged to somebody else. And she realised that men were all bad and she should focus on her career. And that's the falling action. Next slide, please. The falling action's the low point. So if anybody in here is a regular watcher of a 6-part series on ITV or any other establishment, what you'll find is that episode 4/5 gets to the low point where all is lost. If you're a Marvel film watcher, it will be the point where the universe is about to explode, where the baddie is about to take over everything, where our hero has lost the thing that's most important to him, probably a simpering female, and he accepts that he will die or worse, whatever worse is, and not save the universe, and he goes into one last battle, because it's all doomed anyway, so he's just going to give it a go, and because he, sometimes she, mainly he, never they, until it all works out in the end. So in Bridget's case, it reaches a low point. She realises Mark Darcy is not a terribly bad sort, after all. Daniel's gone. She loves him, it's too late, and then it isn't. What she wanted was to follow societal rules and get the man to make her happy. What she needed was self-love and acceptance. But the thing that I had a massive discovery about, which I already know, was that actually, in the end of this, like so many of the stories, the fairy stories that I heard, it's a man that makes it all okay. She reaches a happy ending because Mark Darcy tells her he loves her. And that's where I had a wobble. Because why had I found this so appealing all of my life? Why was I not the rebel that in my heart I know I am? Why was I the follower? So, my wants versus my needs. I consider myself a nonconformist and a rule breaker, and I've been on a journey with that. I got what I wanted, much easier than Bridget. I had the lovely man, a good man, not a bad man, the house, the kids, the successful career. I got it all. I got what I wanted, but it was not what I needed. And the 3-part beginning, middle, and end story structure was not the journey that I was going to go on. The other one is a 7-point structure. I think mine's about 76 so far and counting. Because the first model works in straight lines, and I am and have always been far from straight. And this was never going to be my beginning, middle, and end. And life just kept reminding me about the women I loved before I met that man and before I married that man. And not realizing that there were other models of living, we ended the marriage. What I needed was not the love of a good man, but it was just the love of a good woman, right? It was the hard work of me working out the difference between what I wanted and what I needed. And that was really bloody hard work for me, years of hard, because the way I did it in the middle of my life, I took a family down with me. And that guilt gave me the kind of thin that Bridget Jones wanted to die for, and I nearly did. And it was the one point in my life where everybody told me, oh my God, you look amazing. And I had never been more unhappy. And it was only years later when somebody actually said to me that my rainbow kids could be themselves, this is going to make me go, because of me, that I stopped finally feeling the guilt. And I met women, and I had lots of pleasure, and I learned to love my body and their body. But what I know I needed, and every therapist in the room is screaming, is what I needed was to love myself. So for anybody, it's 2 minutes, has been on that journey, what the fuck does that mean to love myself? So back to society. What society says is to love yourself, you just need to find somebody else. So go on dating apps. Perfect way to feel good about yourself. And I went on a date with an amazing person. And on that date, I realized that what I needed was not a date and not a relationship, but we both had a vacancy for a best friend. And she's in the audience. Lucky, and thank God for me, she's a therapist too. So in order to work out what I needed and how to love myself, she gently, kindly, and so kindly introduced me to the gateway drug of self-help, which is Brené Brown. Cue video. Next slide.
Belonging. We're wired for love. We're hardwired for belonging. It's in our DNA. But let me tell you what belonging is. The opposite of belonging from the research is fitting in. That's the opposite of belonging. Fitting in is assessing and acclimating. Here's what I should say, be. Here's what I shouldn't say. Here's what I should avoid talking about. Here's what I should dress like, look like. That's fitting in. Belonging is belonging to yourself first. Speaking your truth, telling your story, and never betraying yourself for other people. True belonging doesn't require you to change who you are. It requires you to be who you are. And that's vulnerable.
Go, Brené. And actually, it might have been my gateway drug, but I still return to Brené now and again. She's a source of comfort in courage and vulnerability. So I went on finding belonging and to find my own values. And actually, I did it in many ways, but I found it in none of the ways I thought I would. I found it through love and friendship. And because I'm a middle-aged woman, that included a lot of wild swimming and eating cake, obviously. I found it through beautiful friends, some of them that are here featured in the middle, who became my people. Work suddenly became not just about ego and, oh my God, you have an amazing job, and didn't need to define me. I walked into a queer women's festival called Out and Wild and looked around and thought, I feel like I belong. And I went on a journey of exploration and belonging, and actually the sex lectures was massive for me. I think it was somebody I was dating that introduced me to it, and I walked into a room where I felt like I belonged in openness, curiosity, acceptance, and exploration and other. And where it didn't exist for me, I built it. Through Wet and Wild, I got to create a certain amount of weekends. And because I needed to know so much about relationships, I invited Christina Cass, who was in the audience, and Claire McCauley. And together we created a weekend where I just did the sandwiches and they did all the amazing thing of teaching women about relationships. And through those, they created belonging and connection and community. So belonging became an internal thing, and it is a continuing practice. Next slide, please. So what I learned, real life is not a film or a novel, it's more like soap. Films and books and stories rarely end at the ending. And if they probably do, it's a tragedy like Romeo and Juliet or Hamlet where everybody dies. And the hardest thing of all, we can't know our ending. And that is the gift, the hard gift that keeps on giving. And being in queer spaces, you're automatically asked to be other. They're amazing. The rules can't and don't apply, and you meet people who ask why a lot. Being other has been for me the single most freeing thing. I was always other, I just didn't realize it. And that was the ultimate sense of belonging for me, inside and out. It's a place that asks lots of questions with even more and lots of different answers. And it requires, and this is a tough one, a radical acceptance of the unknowing. Next slide. Knowing that no one is coming to save me. And a radical acceptance of the unknowing, whilst I said in the literature that it's delicious, actually I take that back, it's really fucking hard. So I'm on my own journey, and I'm on that journey with others too. And lucky for me, there is a queer someone in the audience at the moment who I met while I was looking for belonging, who became a friend, and who has my bed and my heart, but they don't also get my head. I'm trying very hard to keep that for myself. It's where I belong, and it's the place where I want to show up most to be for me. But they are someone whose power is embracing other, someone who beats me hand down at asking questions of why and why not, someone for whom experimentation and exploration is vital. They remind me about the importance of play without outcome. They're someone who is radically committed to the unknowing, and I love that about them, and I love that about us. But I love that about me, and I am loving the person that I'm becoming and that I belong to me. And that radical acceptance of the unknowing is for me what makes sense to me. It is where I feel I belong, and it's exactly where I am meant to be if I can just hold my nerve. Next slide.
No, you need to be exactly where you are.
Okay, are you talking about me or Sally?
Why, Sally, of course. You I'm not worried about. What the hell is your secret, Stevie? You just stand your solid ground, refusing to be anything but you. Never thought I'd say this about anyone in this town but you. You're very, very cool. And whether you set sail or stay put, that's not going to change. Now, why don't we take our Sally by the hand and we go out there and show those people everything she can be. If she were only more like you.
Lady peaceful, lady happy, that's what I long to be. But all the odds are they're in my favor. Something's bound to begin. It's gonna happen sometime. Maybe this time. Maybe this time I'll win.
Thank you.